Hello to the social media peoples and anyone else watching wherever available, all the illegal sites. This is yet another episode of From the Devil's Den, presented by the individuals who make up the Destruct Principle. We have not numbered the episodes because who knows what order I'm going to release them in at this point, but you'll see a lot of things coming soon. This might even be the first one you see. With that, we came up with a cool concept on the last episode, or after, at some point. There was a concept that came up that it would be interesting to have each member pick an album and artist, whether recently or in the past, that they were inspired by, influenced by, got hooked on, have on repeat, etc. And we all thought, hey, that would be a really cool idea because find out more about each other, maybe get some cool shit to listen to. People that are watching can find it then. And so we agreed that should be the next episode. And of course, because, it had to be. The fate was written. The first one chosen was Jared Barkley Wood's pick.
That guy.
And so Jared, share with us what it was that you chose for us to listen to.
Okay, so my album pick was YOB, ATMA, and YOB are a band that I discovered probably about a year to a year and a half ago. I don't recall how I stumbled upon them. I may have heard of them, but only in a vague way. They weren't a band that was on my radar necessarily, but I just happened upon them through the rabbit hole of Spotify or YouTube, and when I heard them, something clicked for me, and I thought, might be onto something here. So I checked them out, listened to everything on Spotify, and watched everything on YouTube, and now I'm a really big fan of this band. They're one of the bands that I've recently discovered that has made me really excited about a band in a way that hasn't necessarily happened in a really long time for me, I guess. They are a three-piece band from Oregon. They've been around since the 90s, I think, from what I gather, like late 90s or something.
Yeah, 96.
Yes.
I was going to interject. Yes, I saw formed 96. I think first demo 99.
Yes,
Mhm.
these guys have done their research.
And then and briefly, which I'll touch on, disbanded
In
06.
2006 and
then
back in
reformed
2008.
it with the creator, and then was it the drummer or one of the originals right away
Mhm.
came back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And have been going since.
I think you're right, yeah. And
Yeah.
the project is kind of like spearheaded by the main songwriter, who's the singer and guitarist. His name's Mike Scheit, and he also has solo material that's out there. He's somebody who I find just a really inspirational human being if you watch his interviews, and he has quite a story as his life. He almost died. Their most recent album from 2018.
I was going to say it's inspired by. He said that was inspired by.
He
that.
had a near-death experience where he almost died. He had complications of diverticulitis, and
Oh, wow.
he was in a lot of pain, and he almost died. And he had a near-death experience, and that really influenced their most recent album, Our Raw Heart, which is one of my favorites from them. It was a really tough decision to choose between Atma and Our Raw Heart. Atma is probably my favorite of their albums, so that's why I chose it. When you're asked to choose an album for something like this, it's not an easy task if you're music people like us, and probably you watching this, you're told to pick an album. It's like, wow, where do I begin? What should I pick? I, in hindsight, am glad that I didn't overthink it. When I was asked to do this, YOB and this album was one of the first that came to my mind, so I was like, just go with that.
There you
I
go.
feel like you immediately were like, I know what I'm gonna pick.
Yeah, I
No,
pretty
you
much
did.
did.
As
yeah.
soon as we brought
Yeah.
it up, you're like, I know. So,
Yeah,
not to
it's-
interject quick, but I'm just jumping to their Spotify quick overview, which was posted by the band itself as far as their biography. It says, epic, crushing, and heavy beyond words, YOB has achieved legendary status due to their unmatched aesthetic and incredible body of work. Formed in 1996 in Eugene, Oregon, under the leadership of doom metal mastermind Mike Scheidt on guitars and vocals, the group initially released a 3-song demo in 2000. From 2002 to 2005, the band released an album a year. Elaborations of Carbon, Catharsis, The Illusion of Motion, and The Unreal Never Lived. Despite all of the momentum, YOB disbanded in 2006. 2008, the band returned from hiatus and has remained strong ever since. It goes on to discuss more, then also details near-death experience with acute... I'm not...
Diverticulitis.
Exactly. Scheidt emerged with new insights and a new sense of self, all of which was poured into the band's most recent release, 2018's Our Raw Heart, a YOB album unlike any other. Our Raw Heart is a brilliant musical progression in the YOB continuum. Across 7 riveting compositions of enormous volume and pensive, transcendental beauty, YOB bleed out their own organic universe of ultimate doom. So that is the description on Spotify. And so the album you gave us was ATMA.
It's pronounced ATMA, yeah. And yeah, it's a pretty accurate description on Spotify. They're a band that is often associated with the doom metal genre,
Mhm.
and they definitely are cut from that cloth. Doom metal is a genre that, I like some bands in it, but it's not, something that I visit often, which is why I think YOB is exciting for me, because it's not typically the type of band that I might really get into.
Mhm.
They follow a lot of the tropes that you would find in doom metal, mainly being heavy, low, and slow. They write songs in long form, which is one of the things about them that, like I said, I don't normally listen to bands that write long songs that stretch out past like the 10-minute mark, but what YOB do with their band, it works. I don't get bored or anything listening to their songs. Their songs still capture my attention, and they have their music's just like the description said. Yeah, I would agree. It's epic and it's heavy. It's also kind of hypnotic in a way. They almost create like long trances. They have riffs that kind of repeat and circle and loop around, and they base a song off of, and they weave in and out of. And another thing I guess it's noteworthy about the band to me is just their whole approach, their aesthetic. The lead singer, at least, I don't know about the other 2 members of the band, but the lead singer has stated in interviews that he's very spiritual. He believes in a lot of spiritual things, and from what I gather, it's a lot of beliefs revolving around Buddhism. He has a lot of Buddhist sort of beliefs and philosophies that he believes in, and that influences his lyrics as well as the album artwork and the imagery that they use. But they don't exploit Buddhism. They don't ever go out saying we are a Buddhist band or we're a Buddhist rock band. They don't do that. They don't hit you over the head with it, basically. If you didn't know that about them going into it, you wouldn't necessarily know that about them, which I guess respect. It's there, but it's not like, as I said, they're not exploiting that in any way. It's a part of them, though. So they are influenced by it. And I appreciate that, because there's aspects of that I appreciate. So that's just another element to them that I really enjoy, and so yeah, I guess that's in a nutshell why I picked the album. I could go on, but ATMA from YOB is the album I picked for this episode, and
so
yeah.
detailing that, I pulled it up. I think we all pulled it up on Spotify. There is a deluxe edition that has both the 5 tracks of the album that are 2021 mixes and 2011 original mixes. So you you said to listen to the 2021 mixes.
Yeah, I like the
Um,
new remastered mixes from 2021. The original songs are still just as good, not to take anything away from the original recordings, but I do like the remastered versions. They just sound a little more powerful, which is what remastering would do.
Yeah.
And also, they changed the artwork for the reissue in 2021, which is, I think, far superior than the original artwork. I love the new artwork. It fits the album like perfectly. Just that image, the colors, everything about the new artwork. So yeah, the new versions of the songs were what I recommended they listen to. The 2021.
and it's funny because I like
recordings.
double checked on that because again,
Mhm.
how we've discussed before how the sound and tone of the mix and everything can really affect it. So just for fun, I jumped into a little bit of the 2011 mixes, and I was just like, nope, yeah, the other 2020.
I wanted to do that.
Definitely better. It's not. It's
I
not.
did the same.
It's not like the typical mastering that a lot of
Uh-huh.
things like will just grab something and like brick wall it.
Yes.
It was literally like more separation.
Well, and
So if anything, it was like a more fine tuning
Yeah.
rather than just a punch of
yeah, well, I was reading an interview about it, and they said they wanted to have it remixed by Billy Barnett, specifically, and to give it to like a more grandiose sort of sound. So I think that's like really cool that they were like, yes, we want to remix this, we want to use this specific producer, and that was the sound they were going for, because it was something along the lines of like the original was kind of like more raw and lo-fi, but they wanted the new remixes to be like that majestic like punch.
But it still kept that. It kept like a, if it makes sense, like a high quality lo-fi.
yeah,
Still sounds
But-
pretty crunchy.
yeah.
So I'm thinking this might be an on-the-fly change. We were originally going to kind of do what we did before on other subjects was kind of a round table, but I'm actually thinking maybe if we switch it up and just all kind of group discuss our thoughts from hearing it,
Yeah.
along with going back to also Jared's first hearing and things like that, and then we could do a group discussion on it all. However long that goes, and then at the end we could then give what I guess a rating or our final thoughts on it, things like that. That just feels like a more natural way to do this
Yeah.
rather than be like each one blocked off.
Sounds good.
So good. Well then, I will still start it off. Though.
Yeah.
So I had wanted to dive into this because especially you said, it's 5 songs and it's almost an hour. So I was like, I want to make sure I listen to it enough to get the grasp on it.
Yeah.
Because if I listen to something that, especially if it's the songs are that long, one time, I'll have initial response to it, but I won't really have it.
Yeah.
And funny enough, like just time and everything, it got to yesterday, and I'm like, I need to listen to this. So, I did try before that. I was driving. It was bright daylight, stuck in traffic. Started it, and probably about 2 or 3 minutes in, I was like, this is not the atmosphere.
I
Yeah.
did
to
the
listen
same
to
thing,
this.
and I was like,
Because
you have to have a right atmosphere.
because I was like, I wasn't feeling it, but not in any way because of
Yeah.
not because of the song, music, anything like that. It's the situation. I was, and thankfully, I'm like, no, this is not it. So,
Mhm.
I listened to it once through, just on headphones, just kind of doing editing and things like that
Yeah.
to kind of like take it in, but not necessarily have to focus. But then, literally earlier today, there was a good 3-hour period where I was just I had to do things that I didn't have to really think about, so I could focus
Mhm.
more on what I was hearing. So I put my headphones on, and I went through it a good 3.5 times.
Yeah.
And so, basically, I'm just like, well, Jared has done it again, where I'm like, it is tasty. It is. The funny thing is after I'd gotten through like 2 listens of it today, I wanted to listen to their other material, but I was like, I can't do that until we do this, because then if by chance anything else in like no, I got through it a good like 3.5 times today, and by the second listen through today, which I guess total would have been 3, you know, I very much enjoy it. I'm going to, it's funny, I already added them, because for me, I had not heard of them before, which isn't surprising, based on his musical knowledge and taste, but like I hadn't heard of him before, I hadn't heard the album or anything off of it, and no, I'm like, this is nice, and the thing is like, in my opinion with it, how I've said before, things need, for me, like, things need a hook, something needs to catch me. That doesn't mean it has to be like simple whatever. With this, yes, the songs are long and things like that, but this is how you do songwriting for that style.
I feel like it takes you on a journey and it doesn't get boring.
Yeah, like I could literally have had this looped like 3 more times and been fine with it, because at no point was I like, I can skip this. Like, it changes enough, it creates the atmosphere and everything, gives you these visuals.
Yeah.
Diving into their lyrics. It's funny.
Yes.
I thought this, because I'm listening to it, I'm like, this would be something I could listen to in a way to kind of be in my Destruct Principle zone.
Yeah.
I was like, this is something I would want us to tour with.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Like, yeah, obviously, like, visually we present ourselves a little different, but I mean, their sound and atmosphere and everything, I was like, this is in the family of what we do.
Yes.
In my opinion, like, and the sound, the atmosphere, the lyrics, the general tone of what I felt from it, I was just like, more of this, and which is why I was completely fine to have it looping. No, I was so happy that I did not continue on Bright Day stuck in traffic listening to it, because even though, like, I feel a proper setting would just be like nice, like a nighttime walk, dark room, even laying down, just kind of zoning, it would be the, like, ultimate proper. And at the same time too, I would love to hear it on a hi-fi system, because even though I could tell it was a drastic difference with the remasters, I'm still listening to it on headphones. Yeah. So, which, while that's good and bad, because I love headphones for the stereo spatial aspect, but a full range system with subs and things, I would love to hear, because I can only
probably hear so much more.
I can only imagine how deep these sound.
And it's like something that it can almost engulf you in that situation. Like it's a sound that.
So it's funny because earlier today, I'm walking around brightly lit area, doing menial things, listening to it, and it's funny because I'm not, like, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, but listening to it, I have all these images and thoughts in my head that they are definitely going to be in my playlist often, and I'm going to check the rest of their material out. And so once again, you've introduced me to something very tasty.
That's great. I was not expecting that response.
No, man.
That really pleases me.
No, like, everything about, like, again, because, I'm just honestly, bands that if I see 1 or 2 here and there, okay. But if I see, like, songs that go past the 7-minute mark, I'm like, let's, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it respect and try it. But more often than not, there will be a point where I'm like, it had me at points, but it's kind of lost. Which
Yeah.
it's difficult. That's another thing. It's difficult to have a song that goes that long, especially, and it might not even be like the composer's fault, just especially if you're trying to write with the ideals of today, which we'll get to another point of mine. So remember, we're all talking, so you can jump in.
Yeah,
I
no.
feel bad. But like, so, just a lot of composers, musicians, and things aren't accustomed to, unless you're like a film composer, to writing things that hold the attention span for that long. Going back to one of the other episodes, or whenever you see that episode, it's really punched into people now of like, get to the hook, get to the main part, and so a lot of times it'll kind of be musical masturbation of someone being like,
Yes.
listen to this epic thing I've written, and it's
like technically great, but
with this it is
is technically great, but
it's and again, it holds your attention because there's, even though it's the doom genre, which has that slow kind of trudging, which I like if done right, and this is completely done right. Like there's
this is almost like meditation doom metal.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's hypnotic.
There are parts of that, and again, that kind of goes back to just earlier today, when I'm focused so much on the sound I'm hearing that I'm just doing whatever task is in front of me, not thinking about it, because I'm just listening to this. Like, it was inspired. Like, literally, when I was listening to this today, I was being inspired because not only did it connect me to what we're doing, but I'm just like, even, you hear something, you get more ideas.
Absolutely.
And I'm just like,
it has this huge cinematic presence to it, which is impressive because it's a 3-piece band.
I didn't, because I didn't want to. The rule in my head was, do not discuss this with any of the others until we are filming this. So, I wanted to text you and be like, you ready to do the side album of doom metal? But I mean, we TDP is
Jared's
such
like, I'm not opposed.
TDP is such a broad sound, you never know what you'll hear in it. But
they're a little sludge.
But no, I was even though it's the doom sludge slow, if done well, I'll listen to anything. And this is, again, all parts of the songs have like a musicality to it. Even droning sounds, even long standing withheld vocals have musicality and notes. Like, it's not just growls that don't go anywhere. It's not, everything moves.
It moves, it builds, it has a purpose, it has a place. Compositionally, he's very talented. Like, it's really cool because it's not really a genre I personally visit a lot at all. So
I like it, I appreciate it, but I don't have a list of bands. That, like, if I were to,
I wouldn't know where to start to listen.
Right. Like, if I were in a mood to listen to like doom metal, I would pull up playlists. I would be because I'm all over the place with things I listen to, but I don't necessarily have like specifics. So in a way, like, again, we're talking about like how different things can inspire you and kind of broaden your taste. Like this alone, Jared recommending this to me, I've now put them in my playlist. I'm gonna check out like you can go to the other artists recommended or like this or their radios. So I mean, it's so good. And
I had a similar experience, like, when you, it was the wrong place, the wrong time to listen to it. Because when I first tried, I was also, just in the car running errands, doing stuff in traffic, just kind of annoyed or whatever. And I was like, this is making me anxious. This music is making me very, very anxious right now. And I don't think this is the right atmosphere to listen to this, to fully take it in. I was like, I envisioned, when I was listening to it, I was like, this is in the woods hiking music for me.
And I am in the opposite.
And I am not, and I just had to shut it off because I was like, I can't do this right now.
The funny thing is now that I am familiar with it, played through it 3.5 times or 4 times, I wasn't stuck in traffic, but on the drive back today, I did still
Yeah.
have it in the car, and now it's okay because I know
Yes,
it. Like,
Yeah.
exactly. You're prepared
But
for
like
it.
as the initial introduction, I'm like, this is wrong. This is not.
It's
y-
wrong. It
you
felt
have
wrong.
to like
yeah.
you have to respect the material.
Yes, absolutely.
Same way with the Destruct Principle. If you're listening to some of our material and you're in a bright sunny park with children, it's not going to hit the same.
That's
as
your first introduction.
Yeah, it's not going to hit the
Yeah,
same.
Well, no,
exactly.
the last time I listened to it, it was just earlier. I had my headphones in and I was laying in the massage bed, and it was definitely like I had my eyes closed the whole time, pretty much. Like, and it visions like it was cool.
Well, and I didn't look up any videos on them. I saw some pictures and things.
I didn't look
So,
at videos either.
But from what I saw as far as pictures, just to be fair, they have like that kind of typical doom metal look, the long
Yeah.
hair. Kind of reminds me of like a Black Sabbath look.
Yes, yes.
If you were like a, classic Black Sabbath look, which is fine and that fits the genre. Like I said, like for me, I'm always like, ooh, I like theatrical. But the thing is with this, like, that's completely fine because that's what I would expect from this genre and sound. And I mean, as cool as that would be, at the same time, they don't need it because again, I haven't watched videos, but with a performance like this, I could just see like a wash of color, like not like super blinky lights or anything, just like solid colors maybe, and just like dark,
like hazy.
maybe like a haze.
Yeah.
You're like it's just this dark setting, and you're
That's
just
pretty much what they do live. They have some lighting, and they might have a backdrop of like a piece of album artwork. Like for the most recent tour, they were playing a lot of material off ATMA, and what they did on stage for the presentation was they had a big backdrop, amongst other things maybe, but I've seen footage of what looked like for most of the show they had a backdrop of the album cover of ATMA as their backdrop for their live performance. And another cool thing that they do, I think, is they're set up live. It's a 3-piece, but it's not. Their positioning on stage is a little unique in the sense that the singer Mike Scheidt and guitar player, he purposefully positions himself facing the band. He's not perfectly in front of the crowd. He kind of positions himself a little bit to the side, so he's kind of looking at his, the bass player and the drummer. And
Okay.
the cool thing about that is when you watch their live performances, because he's not doing the traditional standing straight in front of the stage looking directly at the crowd, he's off to the side looking at the band. It's as if you're watching the band playing with each other. You're watching
that's kinda cool.
you're watching the band play with the members of the band. It's as if you're watching a show, but they're not putting on a show. They're playing their music with each other, and you're just witnessing it because just of the simple way that they've positioned themselves on stage. So that's a unique thing about them, I think, is they're not
Wait,
the
I have a
typical rock
question.
setup.
Like, so have you watched like any of their live footage all the way through, like a full show?
Absolutely.
So how do they go about picking a set? If your songs are so long, how long is the set?
I think
Like-
they've talked about that in interviews, and one of the things that they talked about was how, for example, I think, unless I'm wrong, one of their most high-profile tours to date was they had a tour where they opened for Tool.
Which is funny because in my head, I thought, I'm like, it sounds like a metal version of Tool with the length of their songs and sometimes his
except
vocal
much better
styles.
Yeah.
written.
Well, they
Except-
listed
Right.
Tool as an influence
Yes, but
too.
like,
Well,
see, and that's
I don't get the Tool similarities musically necessarily, other than the sense that it can kind of come off sounding a bit psychedelic or progressive. They're
Mhm.
heavy. They write long songs. Okay, they have a prominent bass.
but I could see Tool fans
Sure,
liking
exactly.
them.
But
Yeah.
the point is how do they pick a set list with such long songs? Well, they talked about that in one of the interviews I had seen or read about how, for example, when they opened for Tool, they have, of course, a certain amount of time they get to play every night. And basically they said, like, yeah, with our songs being so long, we may only play 2 songs and like a third of another song and just kind of modify that one song not necessarily play the entire 16-minute long track that you'd listen to on the album. We might modify the song and make it shorter just so it'll fit in the set. So they kind of it's probably like you would imagine. You
I was
know, they're
wondering that when I
like,
was
we only
listening.
have 45 minutes
Yeah.
to play. Our songs are really long. Let's think about how we can do this, and it's probably like you would imagine. But it is funny to think about, though, and that is something that they've jokingly talked about in interviews, where it's just like, yeah, you know, that is something we have to think about. How are we going to construct a set list with such long songs? But they do it, and they tour a lot, so they know what they're doing.
No, when I was looking up, you know, who it said either influences or comparisons. Yeah, I didn't. I've said before, like, I'm not personally a fan of Tool. I think.
I like A Perfect Circle much better. Like, I'm not a Tool fan.
See, and that's where I get into, like, I've given things of theirs a chance, and it doesn't grip me. Like, it falls into that, like, listen to the way we can, you know, jump.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, whether it be keys or time signatures, whatever. Like, great, but do it in a way that is still interesting.
Yeah.
Or if you want to do long songs, whatever. You know, obviously they're doing something right. They're popular, but again, like, so that is the kind of, like, typical. Not that I try not to go into anything with that. So I didn't with this. You know, like I said, I was like, well, you know, Jared's recommending it. We've always been pretty on with each other, liking what each other likes. And so, like I said, there was, you know, the car bit where I was like, not this time. And then, but no, I mean, listen to it the first time to kind of give me that. I got through it, because especially again with the songs of that length, none of them are gonna be like, I might be like, I like this, but none are gonna kind of like catch me.
Yeah.
There has to be that repeat a bit, but like I said, by the second listen, and then but then they were changing. But let me pull it up again here. So it is 5 tracks. It is Prepare the Ground.
Yep.
Title track, ATMA. Before We Dreamed of Two, which I believe is the longest one. Upon the Sight of the Other Shore, and Adrift in the Ocean.
See, and Adrift in the Ocean was my favorite track on the entire album.
Yeah, I think
So-
that was my favorite too.
So when I listened to it the first run through, I initially was like, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to listen to this again, but I was ready for my nap, so I was like, no, I'll get it in tomorrow,
Yeah.
because I have time. I know that I can do that. So on the real first listen, after the introductory listen, again, I liked them all, but the 3 that stood out to me were ATMA, Before We Dreamed of Two, and Adrift in the Ocean. I was like, these are like, but then on the third playthrough, I mean, still all good, but the Upon the Sight of the Other Shore also, like, and then I'm just like, it's just all of them are great, and probably the only reason I didn't say the first track is because by the end of it, I'm into all the other ones.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, that leads me into with the length of the songs, but also being done well.
Yeah.
That's something I think is kind of great, and that I don't even, maybe it's probably not their intention. It's just how they write, but in a way, it's kind of like, I like what I took at it is from this attitude of like, these aren't single digestible tracks. Like,
yes.
Like, we're not going to, which is great because obviously they have an audience. They have, they're doing tours and things like that. So it's clicked for people. But it's pleasing to, because we always discuss about that taking in an album.
Yes.
Yes, like they're meant to be listened
And
to.
like and
Yeah.
That order.
And maybe that's another reason this hit me so well, aside from, again, the atmosphere, basically
Mhm.
the entire package that I felt from it tapped into what we do. But other than that, I'm just like, I can't imagine pulling this up. I mean, I can't imagine pulling it up and just being like, I'm going to listen to this
Yes.
one track.
Yeah.
Or I'm
Exactly.
going to throw, like, maybe if it was like in a playlist of doom metal
Yeah.
or something.
Good
But I mean,
blended,
but if I would
maybe.
just be like, I want to pick out a single track. Like, it's like,
yeah.
no, like this. And that has so much respect from me for
Mhm.
going back just on memories I have, again, of taking in albums and the whole ritual and
Absolutely.
time of it. Because, again, I don't know if that was even a thought in their minds, but it's great because I took it as kind of like this, no, take these
yeah.
as the entirety or
Or
you're
don't.
not gonna like it.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong. Maybe people do pull up a single song. I'm sure a bunch do, but like I couldn't, and I wouldn't want to, because the
Yeah.
whole thing from beginning to end is just like, it's that journey.
Exactly. There was very much, it felt very meticulous in how the songs went into one another. Like they definitely put thought in, like this track into this track into this track to take you on that journey, which, you know, again, is something we've talked about, how people don't really do that, even if they release full albums, period, anymore. But it was cool to see, because it's something, again, that we all talk about, takes us back to that time when we used to, again, sit down and just listen to an album back to front. And yeah, I couldn't imagine just plucking out one and putting it on and being like, oh, okay, that's it. It definitely feels like you need to sit down and have the experience of listening to everything front to back. Wouldn't want to put it on shuffle, wouldn't want to do anything like that.
I couldn't imagine pulling the album up and being like, shuffle.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
but
speaking of the songs on the album, I guess my favorite are Prepare the Ground, ATMA, and Adrift in the Ocean. I think Prepare the Ground is like one of the best heavy rock songs maybe ever. What an opener.
That's
And
what I
then
was
they
about to
open
say.
Yeah.
It's a good opener.
and they open a lot of their sets with that song live, and I mean it's
'Cause
just
it sets
I
a-
love
it
that
sets a
song.
mood.
Yes, it's such a
It
just,
grabs you right away.
it's fucking awesome, that song. And I love Atma, the title track, because it's just like it's a juggernaut. That
Mhm.
riff, and I love the vibe, and the Alan Watts sample, that they use is just
I wasn't expecting that.
impeccable.
Well,
yeah.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
And I know, when you were describing, earlier, or I guess back when you recommended us the album, but then, and then with that sample, how you're saying it's like the broadest sense of self and
the meaning of the word Atma. Yeah.
and it again, it goes into, because even though maybe, they're not visually done up in a way live, it doesn't have to be, because again, everything I was hearing and where it put me in my mind,
I feel like when you're at a show, if
there.
you're at one of their shows, you're not there to watch them. You're there to listen and go on your own kind of journey.
Right, and
That's
I
pretty
mean,
fair. Yeah.
and
You're there to
you know,
feel it.
Yeah.
and that's not to, and that's not knocking anything that is like, I mean, I feel if we wanted to, we could go up there not done up, and it would still be powerful and have that
Yeah.
feel. But it just again, just listening to it, it hit all the right parts for me, like the atmosphere, the sound, the songwriting. There were hooks in it, whether it be musical, vocally, that at no point was I tired of it. Like I said, I had it looped 3 times today,
Mm-hmm.
and at no point was I like, the only reason I didn't want necessarily to repeat it was because I wanted to check out the rest of their material. But I was like, I cannot do that until we record this, because I don't want anything else of theirs to be in my head. I
Yeah.
only want to have heard this. So 100% going to check out their. You would recommend their newest one?
Yeah, all of their albums are really good. Like, they're all solid. Like, if I had to pick a list of my favorite YOB songs, literally those songs would be picked from every one of their albums. There's 2 here on this album, there's 2 here on the next. All of their albums contain my favorite Yob songs. There's not just one good album and then the rest are like they're all
Consistency.
they're
Nice.
very consistently solid, and they are all just a journey. They are all, a monolithic just slab of music and a lot to take in a great way. They know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a long time, and all of their albums are really good. If I had to recommend to a new Yob fan, like what should I get into, what's the ones to start with, I would say either ATMA or Our Raw Heart. Not to take anything away from the earlier releases, but those 2 are my favorites, ATMA and Our Raw Heart. But man, I mean, we could go into their other albums. My favorite songs are
Well,
on
The
their
Night
other
Is Young.
albums. Like I said, all of their albums are if you liked ATMA, you would like their other albums. So
Like I
Yeah.
said, I definitely plan to, once now that we'll have recorded this, I entirely intend to check out the rest of their catalog.
That's
and,
great.
And with
Yeah.
with the most recent album, like I said, I didn't get to watch any live footage yet, which I always like any group that all of a sudden, because it's funny, I was like, this could be bad because this is going to be one of those things where, like, it's going to be something I'm stuck on, and then I'm like, I don't want to get tired of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already worried about that in the future because I know I'm just going to be, like, going through everything.
Oh, I get that.
But, not a bad problem to have.
No.
But, no.
Then you forget about it for a little bit, and then you go back in. You're like, oh,
Right.
okay.
But yeah, and I also like, and you had mentioned the sample. I like that, it from at least the little bits that I heard that were in the album, that they don't mind having, how some bands of genres like these
We
are-
only
are
do this,
like
and that
basic-
is
like-
only
like-
what we
like
do. We
Mhm.
don't
just
stick out of
right.
it.
but that they have samples in it, and like there were the samples of like the water and wind and
Yeah.
the
The rain and-
As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, they're hitting it all.
Yeah.
'Cause I'll, me with like field type samples and
Oh, absolutely.
just
and-
more of
Yeah,
that.
they're
just more of that-
experimental. They transcend doom metal. They're often associated with that, but they, not just within doom metal, but heavy music in general. They do their own thing. They're very special and unique, and
Yeah.
so they're not afraid to experiment or incorporate samples and.
Well, and again, the way
yeah.
that reminds me and ties us in with me being like this, while not the sound.
it's kinda like how
technically,
we
but
are.
like in
Yeah.
the family of field of
Yes.
whatever we are.
Yes.
Is like because you could easily throw a number of different genre styles.
Oh,
into
yeah.
that.
And-
Whereas the same with us.
Yeah. When I was reading more about them too, it was even saying how they are quite unique within the doom metal genre for doing like that kind of having that creativity and thinking outside the box like that.
They definitely do. I mean, the way that they create their sound with just 3 people, one of the main
Yes.
reasons you might say is because Mike Scheidt has a pretty epic guitar pedal board.
He does. I actually brought up his
They-
equipment list.
yeah,
I have it
then
on my phone.
He has lots of pedals for his guitar. He has a special guitar that he has,
It's a
Monson,
Monson.
and it's like 11 pounds, and it's like this beautiful wooden guitar. And
yeah.
he also puts effects. He's not afraid to use effects on his vocals live. He uses like a reverb and like a doubler effect, I
Yeah.
think, and like
It is a Monson Nomad.
yeah, and it's a beautiful guitar, and he's been using that guitar for a while now, so it is noteworthy. You wouldn't necessarily think, oh, the singer uses a Monson guitar. It's like, okay, it's a guitar, but it's a very distinctive, that Mike from Yob uses that guitar, and
Yeah.
when you see it, it's like, that's the guitar, So, but anyway, they've taken a lot of time and effort to create who they are and what they want to be through their music, and they've definitely developed their own sound and their own style, and just sonically they've got it down. They are uniquely them, and only those 3 guys could be that band basically, and it's just a very special thing that yeah, like we've said, I'm a big fan. So
Now, I know when I was reading about stuff, a lot of people in like interviews and like reviewers and stuff had said like it's very distinct between like the first era and the second era. And so as someone who's like a long-time listener, would you say that's kind of accurate? Would you say like there is kind of a vast difference? Because I didn't check
Yeah.
out anything else outside of this.
yeah, I do think there's I guess you could say a subtle evolution when they first started, like their demo, and right up to the first album. It was probably a lot more typical stoner doom metal sounding, but over time they've as we
I mean,
have,
yeah, you grow over time.
Yeah.
right,
so-
as we have, you find yourself, the band has found itself, and they've kind of, evolved and grown into what they now do. And, for I think any band, that's the case. You don't,
Well, I was
you're
gonna
not
say,
able-
You don't
like,
wanna
I was
stay
gonna say, like,
stagnant.
whether-
you
whether-
don't, you don't immediately execute your grand vision for your band at first. That
Yeah.
takes time. You have to define who you are and define who you are through time.
Absolutely.
And that's what they have done. So their earlier material wasn't quite as maybe epic or expansive or, transcendent, as we've said. It was maybe a little more to the point. It wasn't as quite refined as they are now. But yeah, and you might say they've matured, I guess maybe is a way
Well,
to
yeah,
put
I mean,
it.
I think any band, creative, anything, however something starts, and whether it be a concept, a song, anything like that, you can fully realize in your mind where you want it to go and what you want it to be. But I mean, it kind of like goes where it wants, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not where you expect, or it
Uh-huh.
could, there could be influences you didn't expect to take. So yeah, I mean, I would imagine that you could probably hear, and again, like, I haven't checked out anything either yet, but I imagine you would probably you would kind of hear where it would be going,
Yeah.
but it's not fully realized yet. Just as
Or
with
like
anything.
you said, they kind of split for a little bit. Maybe that was like they kind of,
And I mean,
found
wherever
themselves after they
any
came
of
back.
wherever
Yeah. What were they doing?
wherever any artist is in their life,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you would hope affects and influences their work, unless they're like ghostwriting for someone else. But I mean, still, what you create is hopefully going to have at least a little bit of an imprint of yourself on it. So, no, I'm very excited to check out more, and was eagerly anticipating getting to do this so I can. Because again, like when and it, I don't know if it's again the like rapid nature of how things are now, but or just me not having the time to kind of like find more things. But I mean, it's when you have that excitement of like, I want to listen to everything.
Oh,
this,
yeah.
this artist group.
Well, it's kind of like
anyone-
what Jared said when he first discovered it. It was like first time excitement. Like, you don't feel that very often, especially with music nowadays.
And
I
again,
feel
especially where it hits all the aspects, because
Mhm.
I've found artists that I'll find a song or two and I'm like, this is cool,
Yeah.
and then I'll check the rest out and maybe not all of it's for me, but
Yeah, I think they kind of encompass a lot what I'm looking for, and if I want to listen to a heavy band, but they have a whole spectrum. They have very beautiful, ethereal sounding stuff, but then they have
Mhm.
like just really heavy sounding stuff as well. And I love
again,
the
Yeah.
Mike's vocals. I love this high pitched singing, but he also does like the higher pitched, almost like Geddy Lee-ish type of
Uh-huh,
vocals.
uh-huh.
But he also does like low, not just the guttural vocals, but he also does like low, vocals as well, almost like the Tibetan type chanting, lowish type stuff that he does in some of the songs if you listen closely. So yeah, just like you said, they hit all the marks for me.
and that's the
pretty
thing
much.
too, is that they are heavy, but again, and I've said this before, is that with some bands bands that are just in the heavy genre, like it. Great, it's heavy, and I enjoy aggressive and heavy, but there needs to be something behind it. And this, again, like you were saying, it has all these elements to it. It goes off in these just planes of sound that even and we've said this before, that something doesn't have to necessarily be like loud, aggressive to be heavy. Yeah. And this keeps that feeling without always being
absolutely.
It's heavy not because it has distorted guitars, but it's heavy because the music that they create has weight.
Yes.
It's heavy because it has weight.
It has layers, and it builds upon itself, and it's just like it is. You just get this feeling of like it's almost like a fog. Like it just kind of it engulfs you. It's that kind of music that you can surround yourself with.
I hadn't even thought about this, but you had mentioned the artwork being redone. Aside from what I saw on Spotify, I haven't even looked at artwork, which again goes back to the kind of like short-sighted of digital, because that's another level that I enjoyed, again, going through albums and things is the artwork and kind of paging through it, looking at it while I'm listening to it. So, I imagine too, I'm sure they released this on vinyl because...
Yes, they did actually. Just recently, ATMA was released on vinyl, and
nice.
It's beautiful.
Because I can imagine... I have again, I've only seen the picture on Spotify, but I could imagine seeing like a full fold-out artwork and just kind of taking in that while listening to this. It's just, again, going back to all the things that I'm like,
Yeah, that's one thing I appreciate about them is they do pay attention to the visuals and their presentation and their artwork and how they present their band. They put a lot of effort into that, everything, the colors that they use, the concepts, especially for their most recent album, Our Raw Heart. They, wanted something, I think they said was like, they wanted it to have vague religious and spiritual iconography, but not anything that actually exists. Is kind of basically essentially a made up, made up symbolism to create an image that looks like it would be spiritual or religious, but it's not at all taken from any real religion or anything.
Well, that's kind of how you said their name is.
Well, the whole name story is a whole different thing. Yeah, the name YOB, like when I first heard their name YOB, I was just like, YOB? Like, what is that? Like, YOB? Like, really? What the hell? And I'm like, does it stand for something? It's not an acronym. It doesn't, YOB, it's just YOB. But the singer, Mike Scheidt, has said, he's done many interviews where basically he has said, like, I think what happened was he, for one thing, he wanted a name for the band that didn't belong or wasn't owned by anything else out there in the world, or so he thought. And long story short, I guess his story as to how he named the band YOB was apparently the name YOB came from, and this, I couldn't believe this, but this is his story. He said in many interviews where YOB came from an old cartoon. YOB came from like an old like Looney Tunes era, like Tex Avery type of cartoon or something like that. He was watching a cartoon, and I guess the gist of the story in the cartoon had something to do with outer space. I don't know if Marvin the Martian was in it. But basically, there was some planet where things were spelled backwards, and maybe I'm getting the story wrong, but in this cartoon, Yob was supposed to be the word for boy. Boy spelled backwards, Yob. And I guess it was just one of those things that just sticks with you, a random weird thing that you just stick with in your mind, and you file it in your mind because it's just random and odd, and you just remember the word Yob, right? I don't know. Maybe that's what happened, I think. But he says he got the name Yob from a cartoon. And he thought, okay, well, for some reason, I like that word. He said basically because that's something that we could make ours, and we could turn that word that means nothing, and we could make that word mean whatever we want it to mean. And now it's like this
epic, heavy, spiritual band, right? That's what YOB is now, because he
Nice.
took that word and he just decided to adopt it and make it mean something when in reality it's a gibberish word. And also, like I said, he wanted something that didn't already exist or wasn't owned by anybody else in the world, which is ironic because apparently after he established the band name as YOB, we're called YOB now, this is our band, it turns out that the word YOB, like, I don't know, and I think in Russia it means fuck, you know? It like
Oh.
there's the book of Job in the Bible that is sometimes pronounced Yob. It turned out like
so of course people took it.
so of
And
course
ran with that,
this word that he thought didn't have a preconceived meaning that he could take and just make his own and establish it as a original thing. We're going to use this made up word and make it our own. Apparently it already has all these different meanings, and he kind of just threw his arms up and was just like, okay, whatever, we're still going
We're still
with
Yob.
this.
It's
And
fine.
I believe there are other bands probably that have existed with the name Yob because, you know, it's a pretty difficult task to have a name and, you know, I guess determine whether or not it's ever been used by somebody else, because chances are it probably has.
Well, funny
So
enough,
that's the story, I
Funny
think.
enough, I almost listened to a band called ATMA by mistake when I was going to pull it
Oh.
up.
I've never heard of a band called Atma.
Because, yeah,
so there you go.
I guess I only typed part of it in, and so when I went to it, and I think the reason I was like, this isn't the right length or the amount of song. I was like, is this right? And I was like, oh, that's right. This is the album, not the band.
Huh.
But that was just funny. But no, going back to how they wanted to use imagery and things that looked like it, you know, might have been a specific theme or anything, but wasn't. It is another thing that I really like, and that sort of ties in to our lyrics discussion, and that on a number of ways, and it could get long and deep if I would discuss this, like, as far as concepts. But I mean, I think that's great because I feel the main element is of anything with things like that is how it affects the user, how it makes the person taking it in feel.
It's like let them decide.
Right, because at this point in my mind, everything that is out there has had our hands in it. You know, whatever it is has mostly been in some way altered to whatever use whoever translated it, whatever it may be, translations, way things are written, put across out there. I would imagine most things have been altered in some form from their initial conception. So that's also something with me in that I like to. There are a number of things that connect with me, that I agree with and believe in and things like that. But I like the idea of a broad scope that does not have a specific, but it has a feel.
Yeah.
And so I really like that. Some people might be the opposite, and that they're like, well, that's bullshit. You know, I can't. You're just making shit up. And it's like,
Who cares?
it's like if I'm gonna be blunt, like everything at this point has some form of made up bullshit.
Yeah.
Some more than others. Some that are more prominent than others.
Yeah.
So like, don't give me that. You know, like it's. And again, with lyrics, you know, not to go back to that, but you know, great if it connects with me. But if it's lyrics that I don't even understand, but it has a feel to it, and puts me somewhere, I can appreciate it just as much, maybe more, if what I knew what they were saying didn't connect with me.
Yeah.
So, you know, in that way, because again, if it would go back, if they would have outright said, "This is specifically this. This is this, whatever." Especially if it was something that I didn't agree with, I'd be like, you know, because it's telling you what it is. I think there's so much more of not only a broad appeal, but also just take what you want from it.
Because then it can mean something different to
while
everyone
still while still tying into what you associate with certain feelings and elements. And
Yeah.
things. So I think I think it's a very smart thing. But on top of that, it's nice because it's opening it up to kind of the widest audience. So
Yes.
almost in a commercial way, it's intelligent because you're not isolating anyone. You're not, you're not telling anyone anything specific because you're literally just saying this is the what I wanted the feel to be. Here it is.
Yes.
So I thought I like that.
Yeah. Also, too, to touch on like their lyrics, because I pulled up all the lyrics for this album, and because when you're listening through it, like I can't decipher what he's saying, but it's cool because again, like you almost don't have to, like the way he uses his voice, the way he uses his different vocal ranges, it adds to it.
It's funny because I did the same thing in that there were certain words you pick up.
Yes.
There's certain words you do. You're like, this is what this is. But as I was then listening with the lyrics, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it
it's
sets
more
a different
obvious.
tone too when you're like actually like comprehending the lyrics that he's
but
saying.
getting to the lyrics, I like that they are, again, kind of like broad.
Yes, exactly.
It helps paint the picture.
They're very beautiful. Like it's like beautiful poetry, and you can even sense that almost like spiritual, enlightening sort of theme behind a lot of it.
It's funny because not to be like pat us on the back, but I was like, this reminds me of the Destruct Principle.
I could see that.
Especially current directions we're growing into even more, and so again that also helped me appreciate this because I'm just like
absolutely.
I literally was like, I would, if given the opportunity, I would 100% be like, we need to tour with this.
Oh, yeah,
group.
definitely.
Well, I would be behind that 'cause they're my favorite band right now. But that's one of the reasons too. The lyrics is why I picked this album is because, like we said depending on which podcast you view of ours in which order, we talked about lyrics in one of our podcasts, and I had said that I'm not necessarily a big lyrics person, but if I connect with them, then that's all the better. And it just so happens that this album and Our Raw Heart, which is why it was so hard to choose between the two, was because the lyrics actually. But no, this album is actually one of those albums that I really do like the lyrics, that I paid attention to the lyrics, and I was like, okay, this speaks to me. And that's actually that was one of the main reasons why I picked this album to recommend because of the lyrics. So I really like the lyrics too on the album.
And it's cool because you don't really catch them all when you listen, but then once you know what they are, it reveals another layer.
Well, sure, same here. Like just like you or anybody, I couldn't make out every word he's singing when I first heard it.
Yeah.
But thanks to the internet and Spotify and whatnot, it's right there, and you can read along as you're listening, and that really helped for me. It made me like the band and that album even more. I really do like the lyrics on ATMA.
Yeah.
So
we are back. We never said we were taking a break, but we did. And so if there's differences in the shot, that's why. We were discussing Jared's pick for all of us to listen to. I'm going to do a little bit more chats on that topic. I'll kind of maybe bring up some questions and we can all answer. So the rest of us had not heard of YOB before, right? Okay. So you and I both said we kind of had the same initial listen and had to turn it off because of the atmosphere wasn't correct, and then found one. So what was, detail your experience. So JB Dubs gave us what to listen to. What did you do basically? How'd you go about it?
Me?
Yes, you, the
Me?
person I'm looking at that you can't see.
Even though you don't have sunglasses.
Because of
totally
my
see.
sunglasses. It is bright down here.
So when you sent that in the group text, I pulled it up,
Well, because you were like, I love this idea.
Yes.
Yes.
I was very into the idea.
Which, again, I think it's cool because as much as we know about each other, I mean, you know, there's tons of shit we don't. Just
absolutely.
again, you know, it's cool because you can. Yeah. I won't go into it. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So I pulled it up and I saw it on Spotify, and I knew like I can't. It's not something you just put on casually. Like I could just tell, and I wasn't even going to try it.
Right, and that's why when he was like, "It's 5 songs, it's an
Yes.
hour," I'm like,
I know what I'm. I not that I knew, but I'm like, okay, I know I need to be.
this is not casual listening.
Exactly. It's not something you just
I think
throw
I
on.
think I said in the text, "Get comfy."
Yeah, you did. So I actually wound up listening to it yesterday and today too, because I wanted it to be fresh in my mind when I did listen to it. And so I
should have used that excuse rather than just being like, I didn't get to it.
Well, I would have listened to it before, but I wanted to make sure that I definitely listened to it right before we talked about it, just so I had it.
No, I get that too.
Right there. But I just, we've been doing so much stuff. I didn't have much of a chance to otherwise. So it was, and again, I did it in a way where I was kind of just like sitting down. I think I put it on once when I was doing my makeup. So it was something I could like focus on, but I was still doing something because I can't just not be doing something. But I put it on and was able to sit and listen to it while I was, doing something I'd have to focus on. And then again, I listened to it back to back, probably about 3 times, just so I could keep it cycling in my brain.
Like literally, like
Yeah.
as it ends, you can put it back on, and it just it goes into itself.
I actually took all the songs and I put them on their own playlist so it wouldn't start to go into the other one by accident because I just had it
I did.
on repeat.
I had to keep.
Yeah.
I wasn't smart like that.
So I was like, but listening to it the way that I am, I'm like, okay, now I want to know everything about this. And again, without diving too deep into the other stuff because I didn't want it to taint my conversations for today by having their other material in my head. So that's
we take things seriously.
We do. So that's when I was doing the research and I learned about them as a band and I learned about Mike as an artist and then I learned about his whole guitar setup.
Which I didn't check this out either because again relating to any of the members, but I saw he has an acoustic kind of side. But have you checked that out?
Yeah, he has his own acoustic solo material. He's been involved in a few other side projects. Some of them are a little more YOB adjacent. They're a little more in the doom metal side-ish. But YOB and his solo material are, I think, mainly what he's involved in nowadays. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to check that out too, because like I said, when I listen to it, I have that feeling of like I need to hear it all.
Yes.
And because again, you get that excitement where you're just like,
Oh yeah, exactly. It's when you hear something for the first time that really grabs you, and then your brain has that response of like, I want to listen to this until I hate music. That moment when you really hear something that you like. So I thought, again, I was like, okay, cool. I want to know all about this. Like I said, I found his whole guitar setup in an interview he did, learning about the guitar he uses.
That kind of goes back to, with the other chats where, I've said even I want to know, and because this is what I appreciate out of things like this, with films or anything, even if the film is garbage, if it has special features about the makings of or how it was written, how it came to be, and things like that, that's interesting to me. So no, I can completely tell I'm going to be probably searching up, interviews, seeing if there's making of the album documentaries, because those are always fantastic to me.
Absolutely.
It can be to me, it can be the worst fucking band in the world. Yeah. I still want to know.
You want to know the process.
Yeah, I want to know. I could care less what the end result was. I want to see the goings on. I always love in studio documentaries and things like that. Oh, so I'm going to search all that out and hope there's stuff to find.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna YouTube and check out their other stuff.
Which is also
this.
kind of why we've been attempting and going to be putting out a lot of just behind the scenes and things that I think are interesting that I'd want to see from artists over time, both from the Destruct Principle and Mary Lou's and anything else we're involved in, and kind of giving people a glimpse into all the things that go into this, which are many and endless.
Oh yes.
But not to veer off too far.
No,
Just
no.
that I love behind the scenes and makings
Yes.
of and things like that, just as much, if not more, in some instances,
Mhm.
than what the final product became. Just because you can always you can take something from anything.
Oh yeah.
Even if the end result was garbage,
Mhm.
there's little diamonds everywhere.
Oh yeah,
else.
absolutely. And something we talked about, I forget which episode or which chats we had about creative. It seems like creatives want to know the process. Like they want to have that process because you have your own process.
Because it's inspiring.
Yeah, and so
Especially if you're
you
at any
take from
type
it.
of a standstill.
Yeah.
But I mean, and going back to just, even though I feel for me right now, that I'm I don't know, not to veer off. I'm in in a unique state where I feel like there's so much that we have that's going to come out that's just strong. But
Mhm.
point being is, even if I didn't feel that way, basically a good place creatively.
Yes.
But even hearing this album today, repeating again, still brought so many feelings and ideas and things
Mhm.
like that. Just inspiring. So this would even be something that I would turn to, my kind of list of films, music, books, anything, if I'm kind of in a rut,
Yeah.
that I could listen to this, I think, and be
It'll help
inspired.
get
Take
the
something
wheels
and
turning
be
again.
there's
Oh,
the
yeah.
spice.
I could see it being on when I paint. I know that's a discussion we had on another podcast.
Well, I was just
but
gonna say, feel free to chime in. I don't want to cut into over too much, but and now that I had mentioned about listening to it on headphones,
yes.
which is great to get the imaging, but also I'd love to hear it on a hi-fi system.
Mhm.
But now that I have taken it in initially, as the thing falls and burns us down, which that would be the way to go. No, that would really suck. But no, after hearing it on headphones, taking it in a number of times, that I could now have this on as definitely, atmosphere, background music. I could
100%.
I am sure I will do the smart thing and make a playlist of just the 2021 mixes. I have it looped if I'm not necessarily doing creative things myself,
Mhm.
but just in a space that I want to have a
Yeah.
feel to. Because again, not to keep hammering that in, but the overall sound, feel, and picture it paints is all the marks for me. But yes, I kept.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
You're listening and all that to it, and
But yeah,
searched all the things.
yeah, searched all the things while I was listening to it again, and again brought up the lyrics because I do enjoy, knowing the lyrics and having that. And again, I think it's cool because it was unpeeling another layer of it, because I really, except for a few words, you can't really get all the lyrics from just listening to it. So again, it's almost like another level of understanding. And the lyrics did really strike me as something at first because, again, they aren't super specific. They do leave a bit of vagueness. They, again, just kind of create a feeling or imagery. And
Well,
I
it's
thought
kind
that
of
was
like
cool.
you take from it what you want to take from it.
Yeah.
And,
And that is my thing.
Yeah.
Which is funny I say that because some things I've written before have been very specific to me.
well, it's there's not a
but-
direct message. You take
right,
it kind
but
of and filter it.
Right, even if things feel specific to me or are, I
Yes.
still would write them or attempt to in a broad scope.
Yeah.
I never want to be just this specifically tells you there's no other option.
Yes.
But and more as we're expanding into the greater magic movement era, the just having many sides and possibles is, that's what I love about things like.
Oh,
and
100%.
so, yes.
I think it's cool when, like I said in the discussion we had at another point, when you put something out there, it's its own thing. Like, it becomes its own entity, and people take it and do with it and process it however they're going to, and that's like
it's
the cool
yours,
thing.
but you don't own it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, like I said, it definitely, like, you could feel it. Like, it was one of those things you could feel, like, how heavy it was, and it was.
If it
It
makes
had
sense, it
that.
had like an authenticity and spirit to it.
Yes, and it was that, like, and it had those elements, that, like, sludginess. It had that, like, chunk elements to it, but it did have, like, really beautiful layers that were very skillfully woven through it. It was a very interesting blend and juxtaposition of, like, ambiance and sound and technique, because obviously he is a very skilled musician and writer, but also it did have those heavier elements, those almost like classic staples, but taking those and making them into more than, what you would expect. So it bends the genre, and it pushes it, which is what you want to see from a band, what you want to see people doing, not just kind of sticking to the same mold. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
And so I know we already chatted a bit. You and I both had to turn it off in the car, but then your initial yes your was today then your first jumps into so let's detail how did you go through it, like, mainly at first, and your takeaway and
I think
thoughts.
last week I listened to it and I'd stopped, and then I listened to it actually driving again, but this time it was different. I was going to work, so I had a long time to listen to it, and, like, that drive's pretty boring, and I do it a lot, so I kind of already was in a trance, and I knew that still wasn't the correct place to listen to it, but it didn't take away from it at that time, because I was kind of in a different zone, not in traffic, not running around doing errands. I was just in the car for 2 hours, and I had time to just kind of let my mind wander and take it in. But still, I do want to go for a walk in the woods and listen to it. I just haven't gotten a chance to yet.
And we were just saying, earlier, I think it was off camera, that, we all like to do our walks out in nature, daytime, nighttime, that we were saying that the two prime examples that I would say would be to listen to this, for me, would be, yes, a nighttime walk, or if I were, aside from just having it on in the background to create an atmosphere, if it was the focal point, would be just, in your room, low lighting, and just incense can.
Yeah.
I mean, just the whole atmosphere
Absolutely.
is what that would be my prime time to listen to.
Well, like, I don't know. I'm a big hiker, and what got me through COVID was walking in the woods every single day for 10 miles, pretty much a day. And I would put music on, music I normally wouldn't listen to, but in a different atmosphere, it kind of takes on a different vibe. And this, in my head, would be a perfect type of music to just kind of, like, when I'm hiking, I just kind of pretend I'm in a different place, and, like, the woods take on a different meaning, and it kind of feels like you're not in the woods right over there or wherever you are. Like, it feels like you're out somewhere, like, in a different land, kind of, and this music would definitely put you in a different world, and, you know, especially if you don't encounter anyone else. It just feels like you're alone with this music in nature, and it's correct. And I can't wait to give that a shot. It's just been too damn hot.
No,
But today I also listened to it kind of in a more meditative state, and that was also really cool. Like that.
That would be an interesting. That would be interesting to have it on either in the room, or on headphones and sleep with it on.
Oh yeah,
Well, I have to
that'd
say,
be cool.
listening to it in my car and listening to it in headphones was completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have really nice earbuds, so I'm sure if I had really nice
No,
headphones, it would sound a lot better. But I
Mhm.
mean, it was definitely it was more isolating with the earbuds in. And
we could go so long on my thoughts on earbuds.
Mhm.
Yeah. But no, that goes back to, you know, I feel like I know the album, but it could go even more again on a hi-fi system, because I know
Yeah.
even with good headphones, you don't have the full spectrum.
Yeah.
Now, it's still a good representation of it on the headphones I have, but if I could feel it,
Yes.
it's the energy you get from a club or from a good system with a kick drum and bass, you know, when you
Mhm.
fit, because again, that is literal movement
Yes.
that it's creating.
Well,
So
and you're missing out on stuff. And I feel like when I first listened to something with like a sub that I have only listened to on like stereo or like my headphones, I was just like, I didn't even know that was in the song.
right?
Like,
Yeah, no, there
Oh, yeah.
literally
Like-
are. There's and I'm sure it is in
Like
this
this with
album.
this
I'm
for
sure it's in
sure.
this
Oh, yeah.
album, but again, you know, with doing all of us, you know, using sound design and the Destruct principle, there are the same with our material. There are literally sounds you will never know are there if you don't have systems or see us at shows that go down to a certain range, because you know there's only some people know, some people don't. There's only so much on the you know, EQ sound frequency range that speakers can handle to a point, which is why then you have your highs, mids, lows, subs. And the fun thing with creating sounds is you can do these little, you know, secrets of sounds that only hit certain frequencies, and you know, people won't even know they're there unless you're listening on a system or in a club that you actually feel it, or if there's a tone that complements it, and then you have some frequencies under it that are doing their thing. It just it makes it so much bigger, and that doesn't mean that it changes the song dynamically. It's just you know, it's just fun things that kind of that can stand out on different systems, but especially going from, again, headphones, which still I enjoy that for the surround dynamic of it. When you're on a system that has full range, you just I hope I can, you know, throw it on like my monitoring system or something sometime.
Yeah, that'd be cool. 'Cause you get all that little ear candy, you know? Like, you find all these new little things.
But then at the same time, you know, since that's not a plausible situation when you're walking at night, that's when the headphones are perfect for
Yeah.
it. And so I already pretty much detailed my, you know, initial listen and takeaway from it. So I know you said you kind of came across them, just on Spotify?
Spotify or YouTube.
Was it just a general search, or was it recommended from something else you were listening to, if you remember?
It
Or
was probably a recommended sort of thing, you know, that just played. And
so a happy accident?
yeah, I don't recall exactly when or how or what song it was, but I get on a kick of a certain style or band, and kind of like how you said, or we've all said, when you discover something like that, you want to dive into it. And yeah, it was most likely something relating to doom metal, 'cause that's that's a legit genre of music that has its own history and a whole crop of bands that I like. It all depends really, but yeah, I mean, certainly I like a lot of heavy music, and doom metal is no exception. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I don't know if I like a lot of the bands in that genre, and I think I was listening to some band like that, and I came upon YOB, and that's how I came upon them. Like you said, kind of a happy accident, I guess.
So in us kind of detailing, and it's all pretty much the same reason, because we all enjoy the full package of sound and presentation and things. Just kind of branching out, what other, for JB Dubs, what other, not even necessarily in that genre, but it can be, what other kind of artists and things would you, if you were to say how Spotify has if you like this band, you might like this, for people watching or for us to check out, and I'm going to make you probably text me a list. But so what other artists give you this sort of feel, or that you can say like, if you like YOB, check this out?
Well, YOB are unique, like I said, within doom metal, 'cause that's where they revolve around mostly. Their music is uniquely uplifting sounding, I would say. Uniquely spiritual sounding.
Darkly uplifted.
There you go.
Well, again, I think that's the whole kind of like not specific of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not gonna find a band that sounds exactly like them. However, you will find bands of their ilk. Like I've said, doom metal, heavy, slow, and low, and often dark. So to talk about doom metal in general, and these are the bands that influenced YOB. So if you like them, you might like these other bands. They're the ones that influenced them in the genre. Electric Wizard comes to mind pretty much immediately. I'm a fan of theirs. They are kind of a legendary band in the genre. Musically, it's like I said, it's low and slow. It's heavy. It's almost pungent. They are a band that defines sort of the style in a lot of ways. Their album Dope Throne is like one of the all-time classics of doom metal. Dope Throne, of course, implies dope. Electric Wizard are known for being, users of cannabis. Their music is heavily THC influenced, but their whole presentation, their whole aesthetic is awesome. They purposefully present themselves with their artwork and their whole package as a band that uses like old sort of 60s, 70s style Satanism, the occult, Anton LaVey. They're like satanic doom metal. They're all about Satan and drugs and sex, and that's their whole gimmick. And it's awesome, and it's all dark and purposefully over the top. And so Electric Wizard, I would recommend. I would recommend Dope Throne. I would recommend another album. All their albums are pretty much, if you're looking for that, you're gonna find it with them. Another album is Super Coven. That's the name of it. Super Coven, Dope Throne, classics. If you like YOB, check out Electric Wizard. If you like YOB, you could check out, I'm not a huge fan necessarily, but a lot of people think of Neurosis. That's another band that you might like if you like YOB. You could check out, a band I really like. They're an older band. They're called Pentagram. They're a great doom metal band. They're originally from the 70s, but I'm a big fan of Pentagram, actually. Their album Relentless is excellent. Yeah, gosh, there's a lot to go into in the doom metal genre. There really is. There's something like a band like Candlemass, which is older,
Yep.
but I'm not a big fan of because they have a more of a power metal approach to the vocals. I'm not a big fan of. But then again, you have something like a more modern example might be a band called Burning Witch. They were around in the 90s. They had a very dark, caustic, like just oppressive doom metal where things just slowly enter. You first get drums and then bass and then guitars and then finally you hear the vocals, and that's what a lot of doom metal is. It's just slowly building, and you slowly build the song, and then it reaches a point where it just goes off, and it comes back, and it's hypnotic. A lot of doom metal songs are just hypnotic, trance-like, and as I keep saying, it's slow and low.
See, and I feel like that's why I was never drawn to that genre of music, because
Same here,
it
yeah.
made me like anxious.
Well, same
Well,
here.
I
in the
was
sense
actually that was going to be my
yeah.
next question. As I was going to say, is aside from JBW, is anyone else aside from just like I said, like I'd pull up a playlist or something if I'm in that mood, but
I wouldn't necessarily like.
I was
going to
say
any
is like
of
is
them out.
this kind of it almost and not to say that you didn't appreciate it before, but it almost it makes me want to
Well, sometimes you just don't know.
Well,
you don't know,
because
and you don't know what to look for.
Right, and
Or what bands
I
would be drawn
enjoy
to.
and appreciate that style. If I hear it and I like it, I'll listen to it. It has pretty much all the elements I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's just, again, like I said, especially if it's a slow, long, prodding song and it doesn't catch me, I'm not gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like what I search out, but in having this direction, like check this out specifically, and things like that.
From someone who kind of knows your taste. Because I think that's also cool. Like I think all of us are pretty open to music, and what we like is what we like, and it doesn't have to fit a certain genre or anything like that, which is why this is so cool, because we're all so open-minded to music. We're not going to be like, oh, it's doom metal, I'm not going to like that. Like,
yeah.
Right, even though that's not like something that I have day to day in things I listen to. Again,
you can appreciate it.
They will be put into my and it'll make me search out more things.
I don't typically listen to a lot of doom metal bands, or like I said earlier, bands that write songs in a very long form sense, because as you said, they can get kind of plodding, and you lose your attention listening to it, frankly. But yeah, YOB are the exception, and like I said, Electric Wizard, an album I just thought of, it's called Black Masses. That's actually probably my favorite Electric Wizard album, is Black Masses, so check that one out. But yeah, YOB for me are the exception. They are like, within that genre, and just within bands in general that write long form songs. The only other band that comes to mind is Typo Negative. They had some long songs.
Oh yeah, they did.
But I don't typically listen to bands that write very long songs. But yeah, YOB are the exception for me. And
well, I think attacking something like that too, like you said, it has to kind of grab you right away. Otherwise, you're kind of sitting there, you're waiting, which there's this interesting finesse to writing a song that has a slow build, but also can capture you off the bat. Because something might get better, but if I don't give it a chance, I'm not going to know. But if it doesn't catch me right away, then I'm probably not going to stay invested to give it that chance.
It requires patience from the listener.
It does.
If you know what you're getting into with, keep saying it, doom metal, then you know what you're getting into probably. So you do have to go into it, I suppose, with that sort of mindset of just, it's gonna be a long song. Let's go.
We
on,
got to strap in, like you said.
on this,
Well, and
let's go
and
on this ride.
That
and
goes
yeah.
to what I was saying, that it, like, whether they intended it to or not, that I had respect for, where it comes across just like, take it for what it is, or not at all. Like
Yeah.
like these are not going to be quick digestible things. Like,
Yes.
you take it as its whole presentation, or it's
not
not
necessarily for casual listening or
Yeah.
listeners, but if you hang in with it, you might find it rewarding.
And I think, too, they were very smart, at least with this specific album. Again, because I didn't want to check out anything else, because they really know how to grab you with that style. Like, that first song, like you said, it really, like, the attack on that, it really does catch you. And you're like, okay, all right, I'm in, I'm ready. So I think, too, from a musical standpoint, that is, like, they're just, it seems like they're very smart about
well, and
their music.
also, and I'm assuming it was their decision, if maybe they just had the resources at this point to realize to have it remastered, but not to have it just like brick walled, but
Mhm.
more of almost like yes, it sounds better, but there's obviously, like I said, there's like more separation. There's just, which gives you more of everything. I only listened to a little bit of the 2011 mixes, so I didn't, because once I heard how much better the new ones were, because again, that's there are plenty of remasters that lose character from the original mixes. Thankfully, these enhanced it, and so I'm assuming that was their decision, and knowing like this can be even more what we want it to be. So.
Yeah. And I think it really showcases, because I think when people just hear metal of any kind, people don't assume that it's good songwriting or it's good composition. Like, they just have that preconceived
That
notion.
kind of ties into like the horror movie concept
Exactly. And so it's just kind of like this thing where it's like there is so much interesting and well done, like, compositional elements to the songs. The songs themselves are an entire journey, like, let alone the whole album, but it takes you on a journey front to back of that whole song, so the length of it doesn't even matter, because it's every part of it is utilized.
It
It's
goes
not
into the
yeah.
keeping your interest.
Exactly. There's no dead space. It's not like you're waiting, it's not like you're sitting there like, all right, let's come on.
And that's what I was saying. A lot of times with longer songs, a bit of it I'll be interested, and then
Yeah.
it gets to a point where I'm like,
all right.
It's not
Like,
progressing. It's not
like,
changing. It's kind of just, I don't know.
Yeah.
You mentioned dead space, and that's the one thing about the genre and about YOB that I like, is the notion of space in music,
Mm-hmm.
letting things breathe.
Yes.
That's what you'll find a lot within that genre, that style, is the use of space. It's
purposeful.
It's deliberate. It's purposeful. It's we're gonna take that one extra breath before we
Yes.
hit that downbeat.
It's like
Before
using
we-
silence in movies.
Like
Yeah.
we discussed before, how silences sound, dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Yeah.
No, exactly. That's because even when there are those parts where things drop out or it slows or whatever, like, it's intentional. It's not just because it's boring or whatever. It's just they did it with purpose. It's a point to it.
Yeah, and the other thing I like about their songs is a lot of them are, they circle around like a main riff, but the cool thing about their riffs are that they're honest. And what I mean by that is, it's when you're listening to their songs, you can, for me at least, I feel like I'm kind of predicting where it's going to go, and it pretty much goes there, and it's satisfying. And it makes sense. And I don't know how to say it. It's like when that riff repeats its cycle, it's like he went where I thought he would go with
Mhm.
it, and it's just satisfying.
Well, that
Yeah.
ties into the smart songwriting, because
Yes.
that's, even though it might be long, it's still hitting on basically like kind of the the guidelines of good songwriting.
Yes.
I mean, it it's not conventional songs, but it's still written in ways that maintain conventional rules.
I think
Yes.
the singer Mike has said that what he likes about his favorite albums and his favorite songs and what he wants to do with Yob is he wants there to be a spirit of adventure, a sense of adventure. That's what he has said. That's what he said about his vocals too. He wants there to be that spirit of adventure where basically, I guess he means like you're not afraid,
Mm-hmm.
you're not afraid to try something. You're not afraid to do something musically or vocally that you feel fits that moment in that song, and you just go for it and you try it, and you're not afraid of how it's going to be perceived. It felt right, so do it.
And that comes down to, I think, just honesty from the artist.
Yeah.
That you're not.
So their music is very honest in a lot of ways.
How we all have said we want everything to feel is like what you get is what it was meant to be. There's no like, well,
Everything's like authentic and
right, like it should be this way. It's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
no, it should be how it should be. So
But yeah, all of their albums are really good, really solid, and they all have like a cohesiveness and a weight and a feel to them, and they're all unique. But Atma for me is like, I don't want to say the only masterpiece, but it's one of their masterpieces. That
one
and
of
Our
the
Raw
top
Heart.
tier.
It's the
Nice.
top for me. Atma, Our Raw Heart. After that, there's it's either probably The Great Cessation or Clearing the Path to Ascend. Really, you know what? Now that I think of it, my favorite albums, if I were to rank them, are probably in the order they were released, which is really cool now that I think of it. They've only gotten better. Not to take anything away from their albums, but yeah, if I had to rank them from least favorite to most favorite, it would be in the order that they were released, which is something I just now realized. But that's pretty cool because,
That is cool.
like I said, to me that means they've only gotten better
Yeah.
with every album. So yeah, I want to say they have 5 or 6 major releases that you had read earlier, I believe, when you read the Spotify bio. Yeah, to me, Atma is my favorite.
Well, I know the original release of Atma was their 6th studio album.
Yeah, so now they're at 7, I guess.
Let
But-
me see here.
Because it was released August 16th of 2011.
And yeah, it's probably my favorite. Atma, it just has it's just so powerful. The whole album is just powerful.
Yeah, I think including live releases, there's 9. So I guess that would be
Okay, that's what I
7.
meant by
I
major
think-
releases.
Yeah, I think with like 7.
There's
without
some
the
live
live
albums, live at Roadburn. The Unreal Never Lived live. The Unreal Never Lived is another album. Really good one. They're all good, and yeah,
So
I'm
then,
a big fan.
not for me to keep expanding and drawing on things, but one thing I would just, because we were all saying this would be just good music that would fall in as far as like in the background while you're doing things. Have you had this on while painting or
Oh, sure.
collaging, reading?
Yeah, definitely painting.
Can you think of like, are there any specifics so you can be like, I did this piece while this was on?
I don't know if I could pinpoint it like that, to be honest.
Just that it's in the playlist of
Yeah, but
creative
it's definitely
background.
I've definitely listened to Yob when painting. 'Cause like we've all kind of said, it's good music to do something to. It's,
Yes.
It's good music to have in the background, as well as not doing anything and only listening to the music intently.
Mm-hmm.
But it works also as something to have on in the background just 'cause it is so expansive and long form that you can get lost in it, and it can, feel right doing something else, like you said, painting too.
It's
for
like I said, just
example.
when, and I wasn't even in what I would consider like the best setting, but at least one I could appreciate it in, like today, doing just miscellaneous things, listening to it, and I was kind of just doing the motions of what I was doing and kind of listening to that more and already just thoughts and being inspired. So, like things like that and the excitement from it are, that's why I'm like I need to jump into all the things.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you guys really liked it as much as you did, and I can say that, like I said earlier, I discovered them probably like a year and a half ago, and they're on like almost daily rotation for me since then. I discovered them that long ago, but even I still feel like you've just said, I still feel like this is new and exciting to me. I'm still just as excited basically to listen to them as I did when I first discovered them. So they still are that special to me.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we have returned. You didn't know we
Wow,
went
that was,
away.
like, really big.
Oh wow, yeah, that's funny. Things burning and doing their own thing. So, this will be basically our wrap up, kind of finalization on the episode. We haven't given numbers to them because, again, the order is undecided. Who knows what'll come out? So basically, we kind of detailed everything. Dived pretty deep into discussions on it.
Oh, yeah.
I like where all we went with it. As you can tell, both from this one, if you've seen other ones, future ones, you'll see we're all very passionate about all aspects of what goes into anything. We put a lot of thought into our creations. We think about other things a lot. So, to have other people that appreciate that, and then to get these like recommendations that you can find all this cool shit in, what now is just endless information and things. It's cool, and it's thank you for recommending it.
Thank you, JB
I'm
Dubs.
happy to have this shiny new thing to check out. So, you got people that you trust their judgment. That go out and be like, recommend me something. Good shit. Good things come from it. So I guess we'll kind of give our, at least for now, how things change. It might grow even more as you listen to it more. But we want to give a initial listen review rating on the album. Now, these are, again, fairly new episodes. We haven't been doing this very long, so we're kind of going as we go. So we were saying we will give this 1 out of 10 goats, because why not?
Why not?
So we'll start with you.
I would say I would give this a solid 8 goats.
Quick little recap on just why.
So, yeah, I mean, I really, really enjoyed it way more than I expected I would. Not saying, anything. I just didn't expect to be like, oh, this is really, really cool. Again, I really like that it creates an atmosphere. I really like that I love the thought that goes into each song. I like the thought that goes into the composition of it. I love it dynamically. I thought it had a really good sense of creating those dynamics, those ebb and flows in the song. I enjoyed immensely when I knew what the lyrics were, and I would definitely come back to them. So I think 8 is a really good goat amount for this album, and I'm excited to check out more.
8 goats. Jump over to Avery.
I was also going to give it 8 because I'm pleasantly surprised, because personally it's not something I would have listened to without having to do this. So that's kind of surprising to me, because I'm like, I like this, because I was kind of like, I don't really know how I feel about doom metal, but I'll give it a shot. And I'm surprised. I really enjoy it, and it's definitely something to listen to in a correct environment. So I feel like that's kind of why it's an 8 for me, but I liked it, and thank you. Like, I wouldn't have listened to that without like us doing this. An 8 goats, because I'm pleasantly surprised.
So in keeping with the familiar ranking, that was also going to be mine. It was either going to be 8 goats or like 8 goats and a goatee or something.
Gotcha. You like to throw those
The
percentages in.
Right, because the reason with that is, if anything, I would want more from it. Even though it clocks in at almost an hour, the fact that, again, I had it looped for...
Well, you have more albums to listen to.
Right, and that's
get
what
into.
I was actually going to mention that, you know, maybe on the next one there is more of... Because I would love more, maybe samples, more even atmospheric sound outside of the instruments that they're playing. So nothing really bad. The only thing is just like expand it more for me, even that, you know, it's yeah, and I mean, it also gets that ranking from me again because of how I feel. It's just kind of like, this is what it is, like it or don't, but you know, you have to take it as a whole.
Yeah.
I guess if it would be a ranking in any style of thinking of it, like commercially, that would be the one detriment to it. But obviously, they're not really interested in kind of, you know, top hits, you know, airplay. So no, definitely, yeah. I think 8 goats is would be my ranking of it now. And I don't see why it would be any less in the future, but you know, upon
Listen to the other ones and then come back to it.
right,
Yeah.
I was even thinking, I was like, that would be something fun to revisit after I've heard all the material.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is a solid release that I think, even if you're like Avery, not necessarily a fan of or familiar with, or not even necessarily a fan of, but just you don't listen to it often, you would still at least appreciate it. If you're watching this, if you're a fan of the Destruct Principle, I'm pretty sure you will be a fan of this album.
Yeah.
I
could
can
see
say
that.
that, yes.
Because, like I said, when I listened to it, it felt like it was in our family of creative round.
Yes.
That I was, again, I could be like, I could see us touring with this
Yeah.
easily. Like, this would be a great like set of groups.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, and so again, JBW, he gave us this recommendation, and it seems like all of us very much enjoyed it. So I mean, I know you said right away you were, but what was your first? What rating would you give it if you harken back
Wipe
to
your
the
memory
first?
away for the first time you've ever listened to it.
I'm betting it's gonna
Forget
be
everything.
8. Watch it be 8 goats.
Oh, it's a 10 goats out of 10 for me.
10
There
goats
you
out of
go.
10.
I'll even go 11 goats just because.
Turn it up
So
to
we'll start
11.
Just because it's metal, you know.
Oh yeah, gotta.
These goats go up to 11.
There you go.
But
10 goats and a sloth.
there you go. Yeah, you know, it was my pick, and like I said earlier, they're like my favorite band right now. So, of course, I gotta give it 10 goats.
Of course.
But I love this album. I love this band, and I love all their other albums, and I love the fact that you guys liked it as much as you did. Just being totally honest, going into this, I wasn't expecting as enthusiastic and a positive reaction that you guys would like it. I thought you guys would like it, but you wouldn't really like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys seem to really like it, and that makes me really happy.
I was going to say a near, I don't know the exact time, but a near 2-hour discussion.
Yeah,
I would
right?
say we very much enjoyed it.
Hey,
And,
Mikey, he likes it.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it.
So
Really
again,
am.
I am very happy that that you did this, because it brought me a new band and a lot of inspiration, and so
Awesome.
Absolutely.
as you have done many times in the past. So, but yes, so that pretty much wraps up what this episode was about. We'll kind of do the final call of all the places you can find us. I plan to get that link tree with all of them linked together before this even goes up. So hopefully you can find all of our socials for the Destruct Principle on the link tree. Your typical places you'll find us: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our YouTube channel. There was actually an old The Destruct Principle channel that that blew up somewhere that you can still find, but we don't have access to. So our YouTube is Cult of TDP, KVLT OF TDP. So this will be on there and streamed and all that good stuff. We're on Twitch, which we will in the future be actually doing like real live streams on there. You can find us at thedestructprinciple.com. Our merch is linked directly off that, but that is the destructprinciple.bandcamp.com or .com/merch. And yeah, so going to be having new merch coming out soon, some that even has some artwork from JBW on it. And a lot of performances, ritual performances coming up. We have next week, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Next week, we are in Coney Island.
Yes.
Which seems fitting.
Yeah, it does.
I think they even said it's still at the same address, but it was originally, I guess, in a smaller space.
Mm-hmm.
And so they moved it. It's like, I guess, the next door over to a larger area. So we will be there. We have some other things coming up. We were just in Mechanicsburg at Love Drafts. We're actually going to be back there the end of July with Dawn of Ashes.
16th and 17th.
Right, we're in Williamsport for Smite Fest. We're doing 2 days on that, along with the other groups. Some of us are in the Mary Lou's, so you'll see both there. I'm sure there's other things we have that I'm not remembering, but they're listed on our Facebook events website, all of that. Other than that, really, we're all individually online, which won't go into everything, but Razor has a link tree that has them all. Avery has a link tree that has them all. JBW is rather private, but you can find him on Facebook as is it Jared Barkley Wood? You can find him on Facebook as Jared Barkley Wood. He is on Instagram, JBDub666. And you can find his artwork, his collage artwork at Collages from Hell. His paintings are on his personal, but we try to share them often also on the Destruct Principle page. And you can find me. I have a link tree of the band websites. I'm all over the place with different names. I'll eventually get that together too, but you'll find me places. So that is pretty much it. We hope you enjoyed it. I'm not sure what the next episode will be because we have so many different ideas. We're going to pick another member to give us a suggestion on an album that is influential to them, has had an impact on them, whether recently or in the past, anytime throughout their life. And I don't know, do we want to decide who that is now?
How did we decide the first time?
I think we just we automatically said it was JBW. So I would say let's stick with the two in the middle. Let's have Avery, not on the spot on camera now,
No, I know.
but
I mean, no,
so-
I know. I can't get used to talking into the microphone.
so on the next whichever episode ends up being of where we discuss an influential album and artist, it will be Avery's choice, and
I don't know what I'm gonna pick, so I'm the opposite of Jared.
Plus, it's really cool because aside from music and albums and things, we're gonna go all over the place with things like this, just because it's, again, you can take inspiration from all these different things, whether it's movies and books, anything like that. So, but yes, that is it. We're wrapping it up, and I guess we will be going now.
Yeah.
So thank you.